Hello, America. Today's show topics include judges, a little symbolism in history, profiles in history, and more. So, sit back, buckle up, and hang on because we are just getting started.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction.
You and I have a rendezvous with destiny.
You know what time it is, so sit back and get ready for the Stafford Voice, your dose of conservative in a world of liberal.
3, 2, 1.
Hey, how you doing? I'm your host, Daniel Stafford, and you are listening to the Stafford Voice, where we are conservative in a world of liberal. And look, I want to remind you that there are many ways to listen. So, set this channel as a favorite wherever you're at, whatever you have to do so you don't get left behind, whether it's on Spreaker or Stitcher or Player FM, here on the YouTubes, wherever you're at. Set it as a favorite. Even if it's iHeartRadio, we're there. Give us some love. If for some strange, crazy reason you do miss the show, you'll be able to catch the replay, so just sit tight. There's no need to panic because, yes, I've got you. In the case you aren't already following on social media, you can find me over on Twitter or Gab at Stafford Voice. Again, that's Twitter or Gab at Stafford Voice. You can look me up on Grassfire, Facebook, Instagram, Tea Party Community, whatever your social site is of choosing, wherever, just search for the Stafford Voice, and, well, we're probably there. And speaking of which, since you'll be out on the interwebs, do yourself a favor. Head over to thestaffordvoice.com. Sign up for our monthly newsletter. I will be working on it over the next few days. So, yeah, you're going to have to look out for what I've got coming out on that. It's going to be some special content. The only way to get it is to be a subscriber. I promise I do not spam your inbox. That's the last thing I want to do. I get rid of countless emails day in and day out from people that I've unsubscribed to and this and that, various different things, and trust me, I understand the frustration. I don't want you to get caught up in that because of me or because of the show. Also, if you have not done so, please jump over into one of our chat rooms. You've either got klrn.com, klrnradio.com/chat, or you can, since you're over on the YouTubes, you can pop up in the chat room. If you're on a mobile device, all you got to do is just scroll all the way down, and you can talk with guys like Rebel Road Tactical. He's joining us tonight, as well as Tina. We've got Ron, aka the last Trumpanista Hunter, and we have Refill. Also, Refill, I apologize. I didn't get out today to get your special gift in the mail, but I promise it'll get done tomorrow. You're gonna love it. Maybe it's something we're gonna have to do here monthly. Last month it was Slick and Tina. They got a prize. This month it is Refill. Who knows? Maybe next month. Let's see, April, May. Maybe May will be your month. The only way to do that is to make sure that you're subscribed in some form of fashion to find out what it will be. We will figure something out as just a small little token of our appreciation. Wow, Refill, that's very, very kind of you. I'm at a loss for words. Seriously. Jessica, how are you? I see you popping in. Okay. Let's see. Let's pick up where you guys wanted to take this. You guys wanted to talk about this. Judges. And seriously, we don't need no stinking judges. Okay? All right, here goes. You all expressed interest in the topic of judges, and I hope we can all learn something. And I apologize if I don't seem overly engaged with the camera tonight. It's because I've got so many notes here that I spent a day and a half on these notes. So, yeah, do me a favor. Turn that championship game down. Turn the volume up on your listening device for the show. And I promise, if you're still awake at the end of the show, it's because you're watching a championship game or you are watching baseball or something. Hockey. Who knows? Anyway, this is probably going to be extremely, extremely boring for you tonight. But if you're a longtime listener, you know we like history and stuff like that. So here goes. Now, on the topic of judges, and while this is a pretty broad topic, I decided to go about it in a different way. We can all agree that we like history around here, and we can also agree that sometimes I tend to take a different approach to talking about things. Tonight is no different. Not only will we look at history, but we're going to take a look at symbols. But before we do that, I asked myself a question. What's the purpose or the role of a judge? And I kind of defined this for myself so I could better kind of bring clarity as to what I was thinking and where I wanted to go with this. And in its simplest form, I came up with this. They interpret the law. How? Well, they assess the evidence presented without regard to which side is popular, favored, what the spectators want, or whether they agree with the law, and rule according to how they interpret the law. Opinionated, yes and no. And we'll get to that. Okay, so symbols. I told you guys about symbols. I like to look for symbols or things hiding in plain sight. And as I do so, I tend to get a better understanding and clarity from things like sculpture and art and all different types of forms of art. You can refer to it as Illuminati stuff or whatever you want, but this particular topic on judges drew me into looking at art sculpture. And what better way to where better to look that is than Washington, D.C., i.e. the Supreme Court building. I'll admit I was in awe when we went. We went, a couple of years ago? It was about 2 years ago, yeah. About 2 years ago, we went to Washington, D.C., and I'll admit, I could have stood there for hours just dissecting all the statues and various other things around town. So, let's start there. On your screen, you're looking at the front of the Supreme Court building. There are two prominent sculptures. On the left, a female figure titled Contemplation of Justice, and the one on the right is a male figure titled Authority of Law. Now, why, you ask, one male and one female? Well, it's more than just balance. Okay, look up and across the top of the front of the building. Let me put that back up there for you real quick. And I apologize, I could have zoomed in on this, but for the sake of time and boring you, I didn't. But if you'll notice, right across the top of the building, there is an inscription that reads, Equal Justice Under Law. Now, nobody is above or below the law, of which, as we are endowed by our Creator, that all men and women are created equal and should be judged accordingly. You'll see that I kind of slipped in some of that there, Constitution and Declaration of Independence stuff. Okay, so, on to these symbols. Let me pull this one up here real quick. Refill, we're going to get to that here in just a second. Also, if you have any tips or tricks on laryngitis or losing your voice or anything like that, drop us some ideas in the chat. We're interested to know. Jessica's dealing with some laryngitis. She could use some help. So maybe you could try salt water, Jess. That's one of the things that Slick put up there in the chat. Okay, let's get back to this. Okay, on your screen, contemplation of justice. She sits in a chair holding in her right hand what many of us have come to know as Lady Justice, which dates back to depictions of Themis and Justitia in ancient mythology. Now, Themis was the Greek goddess of justice and law, known for her clear-sightedness, and Justitia, was one of the four virtues, along with prudence, fortitude, and temperance, from Roman mythology. Lady Justice is usually depicted with three symbols herself. You'll notice in her, as she's facing you, it would be her right hand. That's Lady Justice. Is usually depicted with the three symbols: the blindfold, the scales, and the sword, and we'll come back to the sword a little later. Well, the origin of the blindfold isn't clear. I couldn't find anything in anywhere where I was looking where they kind of expounded on the idea of the blindfold. But it's often thought of as a symbol of impartiality, tolerance of, or ignorance to abuse of the law. Let's see. Oh, crap. He's going all angels and demons on us. Soon he'll be saving the Pope. I don't know. Probably not going to be out saving the Pope. We're just going to be sitting here doing a show talking about various things that you'll see if you're out and about. I mean, these symbols are all around us. I mean, if you've been to Washington, you will have likely passed by Lady Justice many times and probably not even known it. All over New York, and almost every courtroom that you will go to will have Lady Justice. So it's interesting to be able to know these things. Sorry, I mean, this stuff's fascinating. It's really neat. Let's see, Refill says, in all honesty, it's a little creepy with her being a giant holding Lady Justice. Well, I agree. It is kind of weird, but again, let's get back to some of this symbols. So let's see, where did I pick up on my, abuse of the law. Go back and think about how I defined for myself what the role and purpose of was for a judge. Okay? That's in regards to the blindfold. Symbols are everywhere. They are. Okay, so the scales that Lady Justice is holding. Those scales, simple enough, they're symbolic of, obviously weighing things, i.e. fact from fiction, or truth from opinion, or right from wrong, etc. There's a long list of things that you can use scales for. Now, let's look at her other hand. Here, let me put this back up here so you can see. Okay. Let's see. Her left hand is supported by a book, and it's not an ordinary book. It's a book of laws. Oh, Ron says that his TV is a symbol of laziness. Oh, you're not lazy by any means. Anyway, so on the one side, we have a book of laws holding up and guiding one arm, and the other is holding tight to that by which we measure or interpret those laws, albeit blindfolded, leaving her opinions from being able to see or be influenced. Okay, so interesting in its own right. Let's see. Slick says justice is blind. Justice is equal to all people under the law. Very, very correct. You guys are... seriously, I'm starting to think I've got probably the smartest audience in all of whatever we're doing here. Okay. See, you guys force me to have to up my game. You guys push me to my limits. Okay, so let's look at this other statue that's on the other side of the front of Supreme Court building. This one is titled Authority of Law. There's two things that immediately stand out to me. One, a tablet of laws. Now, we know it's a tablet of laws because inscribed across the front, maybe it's a little difficult for you to see, but across the front at the top of that tablet is the Latin word for law. It says lex, L-E-X. And right behind it is a sword. Now, both of these items are being supported by one hand, the left. The placement of the right, in my opinion, is symbolic of two ideas. One, it's simply just pointing to the tablet of laws. Two, it stands ready to quickly draw the sword from its sheath if it should come to that in order to carry out the prescribed justice. Now, allow me to break this down one step further. I lost my mouse. Okay, here it is. Breaking this down one step further, you see that the tablet is in front of the sheathed sword because the sword of justice should be the last resort, thus bringing us to the idea that you are innocent until proven guilty. Now, the sword is sheathed and done so for a reason. Sure, it's symbolic of enforcement through law, but it's sheathed because once it's drawn, and only until it's drawn, aka abuse of law and justice, should it ever be used. And yes, the scales of justice go all the way back to Egypt. This is a biblical thing. If I'm remembering correctly, I've been wrong in the past, but I believe that the scales of justice are referred to in the Bible. So yes, it has a long history behind some of these symbols. Okay, what does any of this have to do with judges, or even the Supreme Court, you're asking? Let's look at the context of discussion for just a second when the founders were drafting the Constitution. You see, one of the bigger issues at the time was that of judicial power with respect to the Supreme Court. And Alexander Hamilton, in Federalist number 78, I'm jumping back over to the chat. One of the ancient Egyptian gods would weigh your heart on a scale, and if it was found light, the god would eat you. That's very, very true. But Slick, you're on this. Dude, props. You can't win another prize, though. You're kind of disqualified for at least 6 months. Excuse me. But true, the Egyptian gods, they would take the heart of someone and they would put it on the scales, and if it was either too heavy or too light, or depending on whatever he was feeling at the moment, would determine whether he felt you were guilty or not. Okay, back to Federalist number 78. If I'm boring you guys, I'm sorry. We'll get to something a little juicier here in just a minute. Basic Federalist number 78, Alexander Hamilton, basically said that the judicial branch was inherently weak, which was an echo from Montesquieu, who said, quote, "Of these three powers, the judiciary is next to nothing. Weak because of their inability to control money or the military," as Hamilton put it. And the only power they do have is judgment. These next two quotes come from the Federalist number 78. It's true, you've got to know these things in order to understand what's happening right now. Okay, Slick says it's not boring, keep going. Okay, to quote Hamilton in number 78, he says, quote, "The executive not only dispenses the honors, but holds the sword of the community. The legislature not only commands the purse, but prescribes the rules by which the duties and rights of every citizen are to be regulated. The judiciary, on the contrary, has no influence over either the sword or the purse, no direction either of the strength or of the wealth of the society, and can take no active resolution whatever. It may truly be said that to have neither force nor will, but merely judgment, and must ultimately depend upon the aid of the executive arm, even for the efficacy of its judgments. Let's see, Ron, a.k.a. the last Trumpanista hunter. I'd like someone to enforce justice to law on the Dems filibustering Gorsuch. I genuinely think that he's going to be confirmed. When did a filibuster become someone saying, I'm filibustering? Isn't it by definition nonstop talking? True. Okay, let's go back. And that because of their weaknesses, again, this is kind of paraphrasing, the possibility of corruption was a non-issue because they're separate from the executive and legislative branches. Hamilton went on to say that, quote, it equally proves that though individual oppression may now and then proceed from the courts of justice, the general liberty of the people can never be endangered from that quarter. I mean, so long as the judiciary remains truly distinct from both the legislature and the executive. Now, let me back up for just a second. You'll notice that he said the general liberty of the people can never be endangered from that quarter. So a quarter being 4, and what are the 4 parts to the branch of government? Well, he listed the 3, and the 4th is the unwritten. He's obviously talking about and arguing for the judiciary, but how it remains truly distinct from both the legislature, so that's the second, and the executive, that's the third, and the 4th is obviously we the people. Okay, for I agree that, quote, there is no liberty if the power of judging not be separated from the legislative and executive powers. Okay. It's easy to get caught up in the Federalist Papers. It really is. But in order to fully wrap your head around the idea of the Constitution, and this is how difficult, liberal judges don't look at this stuff in a roundabout way. They base everything off of opinion and their own personal merit. But here's the thing. Someone like Gorsuch, who is I can't remember the term, originalist. There we go. Someone like Gorsuch, who is a self-admitted constitutional originalist, is not afraid to go back and say, okay, what did they say, and how did they come to that agreement? So here's what we have to do. Look at the opposing side. Brutus, the anti-federalist, expressed a great concern about what Hamilton was saying here, where Hamilton was basically saying that the courts can't get corrupt because they have little to no power at all. Well, Brutus said this: there is no power above them to control any of their decisions. There is no authority that can remove them, and they cannot be controlled by the laws of the legislature. In short, they are independent of the people, of the legislature, and of every power under heaven. Men placed in this situation will generally soon feel themselves independent of heaven itself. Let me go. Refill wants me to go back. Our government has devolved into 500 monkeys effing a football. Well, I will agree our government is as effed up as a football bat. But seriously, let's stay focused on what we can do. And what can we do is work at this level. This level, this grassroots level where we're at. We can, the few of us that are here, and if you want to be able to build a greater network, I implore you to, or employ you to go out and invite your friends, invite your family. Invite people to come to the show and watch and listen and pay attention and engage with us. Let's talk about these things. These things are important to nonetheless. Gorsuch is an originalist. Unafraid and unapologetically not afraid to go back and look at the Constitution and see what it says. It is the supreme law of the land, aside from what God would, what our Creator would have us have. As you can see, there's a fine line that has to be walked, both in selecting judges and in executing the role of judge. They have an incredible power in their role, as we've seen executed so many times, even with respect to relatively recent rulings. True, judges are imperfect, and unfortunately they're necessary. But it's one of those necessary evils, because society is of natural men and women, and well, we screw up all the time. Now let me jump over to the YouTube chat. Let me get rid of this. I'm tired of looking at it. Okay. You guys are talking about filibusters. Filibusters, I will agree with what you guys are saying. Filibusters are nothing but a joke right now. Very, very few understand the right way to go about doing it. The right way is just get up there and talk. Rand Paul has done it. Ted Cruz has done it. Yes, it's true. Some of these guys, even though they've done it right, they kind of made a mockery of it. Seriously, I get that you want to tuck your girls into bed, but reading Dr. Seuss while filibustering is probably not the best place to do it. I get what he was trying to do. I get what all of them are trying to do. But do your job. Let me see. Let's scroll down. Rebel or Slick says not only that, but an originalist also heeds the words of the founding fathers in regard to the meaning of the Constitution. That's true. I mean, they take into account what was said in the Constitution and then what came about putting it into the Constitution. So, is it important to make sure we put the right guy or gal on the bench as a judge? Yes. It is extremely important. I mean, go back to Roe v. Wade. I mean, that particular case set precedent for how many years? I mean, we're still debating it. We still debate it to this day. Refill, I have no idea what you're saying. None at all. I don't know sports and I don't understand it. I don't even bother with it. But for those out there, somebody's winning, somebody's losing. Okay. Ron says that he likes green eggs and ham. I like ham. I like eggs. Matter of fact, I had eggs this morning for breakfast. 4 eggs every morning. Sprinkle some cheese. I've been starting to, this morning was the first day that I got back to doing it, but Trying to move more towards a ketogenic diet. So I cooked my eggs in coconut oil. No, I don't know sports. I don't understand them. Yes, I did say that. I've said that many times. Let's see. In all honesty, Roe v. Wade was such a pivotal case that it has been involved in so many cases since. It's amazing. It really is. I don't know that. I mean, I would hope that one day we could take a look at Roe v. Wade again, but I doubt it. Jessica, I'm sorry you don't eat pork. No, she probably doesn't eat bacon, unfortunately. Listen, I consume enough bacon. I'm trying to think. The past couple of weeks we've had bacon probably 2 or 3 times a week, if not more. Not last week. Well, that's because it's Monday. So, yeah. We got that going for us. Okay. You know what? We got what? How much more? 21. We got 21 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. Tell me when we get to the magic number. Yeah. Okay, tell me, we're almost there, aren't we? Yep. Okay, I'm stalling because here in just let's see, Jessica. 5 seconds. I got 5 seconds?
3.
2, 1. Okay, we got 20 more minutes left in the show. Why am I fixated on the number 20? Because Thursday this week is our anniversary. 20 years. Yay. That's right. We've been married for 20 years. Believe it or not, she's put up with me for this long. I don't know how she's done it.
I don't know how you do it with me.
I definitely married up. That explains it. Okay. Jessica's Jewish, so she no pork. Okay, no big deal. I get it. It's no big. I tell you what, I will do my part in making sure that your portion of pork products gets eaten. Let's see. Ron says 2 ingrained, unfortunately for Roe. Jessica says congrats, thank you. Somebody's got to say congrats to the wife because she's the one that's put up with me for this long. Okay, now Jessica says I don't do sports either, except I mentioned 2 sports on air, but it was in context of South Korea versus North Korea soccer. When I was in the Army, stationed over in Korea, I was on one of the soccer teams. I enjoy soccer. We played with some of the South Korean Rock Army guys, and they're very good. I did score a couple of goals, got a couple of assists. Woo! Anyway, nothing is better than being able to take some time off this week and celebrate with my wife. In all honesty, I am super, super pumped. We are going to share some stuff with you later on this week. Shooting sports is the game. I couldn't agree more. And by the way, if last week, because I suck as a friend and I suck at sharing messages, I forgot to mention last week that by the time you're watching now up until April 15th. Till April 15th, RebelRoadTactical.com is shut down. They're doing some things on the back end. I'm super excited to tell you I think they've got some new products that they're going to be coming out with. I know Slick is working his backside off on the backside putting things together for you guys, rebuilding the website, and I can't wait for you guys to see and to see myself what he has planned when they do their relaunch. It's going to be exciting. So you guys will have to stay tuned until April 15th. Unfortunately, if you need a holster, it sucks to be you. Slicks. So I will try and remember that, Tina. Tina and Slick's 20th anniversary is in December. I know. I got to remember that. I need to put it on my calendar. Yeah, write that down. Slick says you know how to keep the other team from scoring. You shoot the ball. I don't know a lot of sports that allow you to carry a weapon on the field in order to shoot it. But there are a couple of videos. I saw one YouTube video out there where they were at a driving range, and the dude had a shotgun, and it was, and it's hilarious. Now I could get into that. Yes, it's like skeet shooting.
Yeah.
He's skeet shooting golf balls. I know. It's fantastic. It's awesome. Okay, let's see. Refill says sometimes he goes back to listen to the shows. I've learned that you can pick up on more by listening with headphones. That includes listening to some of your commentary, Roxanne. He also hears meowing. The cat is conked out. The cat is... She has... in all honesty, the cat has slept all day. Did not bother me once while I was working on stuff for the show. The cat is conked out on the couch. Seriously. Let's see. Yes, Slick, I'm super excited. The new stuff, the new website's going to be great. Apparently Refill is typing too much. He probably got a notice from the YouTubes that told him to slow down. I apologize. Last week you guys were so chatty. I can't remember if I've ever seen The Last Boy Scout. I know you're probably going to hate me for that. Ron says he's been waiting 2 years for his Rebel Road holster. It'll be worth it. The new ones are a game changer. I gotta get mine too. After the new launch, Slick, we gotta get hooked up. Okay, how much time do we got? Oh, it's right there. Okay, we got time. Let's do this. Where did it go? It's right here. Profiles in history. His family had already established their name. His grandfather was the royal governor of New Jersey and was related to a chief justice of New York, a lieutenant governor of Pennsylvania, and various other men of influence. Add a 2,000-acre land grant in what is now the Bronx to their unparalleled social position, it's easy to see that he was set for life. Lewis Morris was born in Morrisania on April 8th, 1726. His father was Lord of Morrisania, an agricultural manor in what is now the Bronx. Morris was the heir and destined to be a lord himself under the British grant that established the manor. Around the age of 5, his mother passed away, and his father remarried to Sarah Gouverneur. I think that's how you pronounce it. Or maybe it's Governor. One of his more famous siblings was his younger half-brother, Gouverneur Morris, or Governor Morris, who later signed the Constitution and was a U.S. Senator. At the age of 16, Morris went to Yale College and graduated in 1746. 3 years later, he married Mary Walton, and over the years they had 10 children. Morris became Lord of Morrisania when his father passed away in 1762. Lewis dabbled in politics and the law as he was judge of the Court of Admiralty and served briefly in the Colonial Assembly of New York. That is, until he was disqualified for non-residence. Growing disenchanted with British rule and being surrounded on every side by loyalists, his conversion didn't happen overnight. One of the better examples of his discontent with the changing relationship to the crown came when New York was hosting a large garrison of British troops, who were there theoretically to protect the American colonies. The crown intended to tax New Yorkers to support the troops, and when the assembly refused to vote in favor of this measure, the governor requisitioned the money anyway. Morris was not happy with this outcome, and, more important, he was not quiet about it at all. In 1774, when the colonies were choosing delegates to send to the Continental Congress, Morris was not selected as a representative. You see, New Yorkers still wanted to make peace with the crown, and voters considered Morris too unlikely to support compromise. By the spring of 1775, circumstances had changed dramatically. The Battle of Lexington had taken place, and a strong voice was needed in Philadelphia. This time, Morris was sent. Ironically, though, he wasn't a big talker in Congress, but he did work on the committees to secure munitions for the troops. In September, he went to the frontier in Pennsylvania to try to secure the loyalty of the Indians to the colonies. The next year, in June 1776, Morris took a leave from his duties with Congress to command the militia in Westchester, New York, as a brigadier general. When Congress voted on independence in July, he was still serving in the militia. However, he didn't miss much. New York was the only colony to abstain from voting on July 2nd. The delegates weren't getting enough direction from their colony and therefore were unwilling to decide one way or the other. But just a week after the vote passed, Morris helped lead New York in approving the Declaration of Independence, which it did on July 9th. Only with New York's assent did the declaration then become a, quote, unanimous Declaration of Independence. When he returned to Congress in September, he signed the document. In June 1777, Lewis Morris left Congress to concentrate on his role in the military. His half-brother, governor, was elected to replace him. As the British were about to invade New York, they took over Morrisania as the Morris family fled. For the British, it not only was a handy target, but a fine objective, if you will. The house was trashed, extensive stands of trees were burned or cut down for firewood, and cattle were slaughtered to feed the troops. After the war in 1783, Morris began to reestablish his agricultural estate and home at Morrisania. He was ultimately successful and ended up spending the rest of his life on the restored property. When New York had to decide whether to adopt the new federal constitution in 1788, Morris served in the state convention as an ardent Federalist. However, helping to pass the Constitution did not help him serve under it. In 1789, he tried to become a U.S. Senator, but because elections were by the state's legislatures at the time, and because the lower house was anti-Federalist, they choose not to send a Federalist to represent them. Although he served on the Board of Regents for the University of New York, he retired from public life. He spent the rest of his life quietly at Morrisania. His wife, Mary, passed away in 1794, and 4 years later, on January 22nd, 1798, at the age of 71, Lewis Morris passed away. And that is this week's Profiles in History. Oh, seriously. I'm sorry, I'm just taking a look at the time here real quick. Is it not fascinating that a guy like Lewis Morris, a guy like Lewis Morris had pretty much his entire life. It was set. He had everything he needed. Everything he needed. He put it all aside and went and served in the military. Risked his home. He risked it all. It's just absolutely fascinating. I mean, I sit here, I study these guys and what they did with their life, and I feel like a slacker. I feel like I'm not doing enough. I feel like I've got so much more to give. I mean, these guys did. They risked it all. It's just fascinating. Really is. Okay. I gotta quit thinking about not doing enough. I'm doing what I can, and I like to think I'm doing okay. I mean, you guys haven't left yet. Let me see let's see. I still got some of you there. Okay. Slick, I'm right there with you, except for the rich family part. Let's see, we got Refill. He's over here giving us scores to the Gonzaga game. He's keeping me on my toes. I do. These guys are fascinating. I'm super glad that we've decided to chronicle these guys for our first series in Profiles in History. After this, after we're done talking about them, I don't quite know who we're going to cover or what we're going to cover. I don't know. I'm interested to know what you guys think. Maybe we could take a break from signers of documents. Maybe we could do military generals throughout the years. Maybe we could profile them. Maybe we could take a look at some of the battles of the American Revolution or the Civil War. I don't know. Maybe we could take a look at the presidents. It's been tossed around that maybe we could take a look at the lives of the first women, or not the first women, but
I have those.
yeah,
I still have those books.
we do. Well, I mean that's one idea.
It even has
I'm gonna profile Obama. No. To study the Constitution. Yeah. We've talked about that. One of the ideas I have yet to ever forget thinking, that I just cannot quit thinking about, is taking the Constitution of the United States and putting it side by side with the Declaration of Independence and showing how they coincide with each other. I think it would be fascinating. Maybe you guys let me know whether you guys think that would be a fun series to go through or not. I mean, it's going to require some work on your guys' part. So, you got that going for you. I tell you, if you're in the chat and you know that reference, shout it out. So yeah, he's got that going for him. Anyway, I'm just kind of at a loss. I mean, I'm just so excited about this week. I'm. How many people out there today can honestly celebrate 20 years. I mean, the generation that's coming up today is, I don't think they get it. I really don't. I mean, they're so caught up in the do whatever feels good right now thing. People don't get married anymore. They just hook up with an F buddy and yeah, I mean, that's true. And people our age don't get married. I mean, or they wait until they're
like 30, 40.
Yeah, and then they have kids. That's true. Jessica says it'll be 9 years for them. Slick says that would be awesome. I think he's referring to studying the Constitution and the Declaration side by side. Not Texas independence awesome, but awesome nonetheless, is what he says.
I kind of like that.
Okay.
I'm a listener.
You are. You're a listener and a viewer. I mean, you're watching the behind-the-scenes thing. You see how many buttons and stuff have to be pushed. Okay. The alarm is going to go off here shortly, and it's going to tell us that we got to wrap this up. So I can end on time for one of our affiliates, Red Nation Rising Radio. By the way, go out, send them some love. They do replay our show every Tuesday and Thursday morning. I believe they've added it to the Saturday morning rotation as well. So please go over to Red Nation Rising, show some appreciation, show some love to them as well as our other affiliates. I know that we're still trying to figure out and wrap our heads around how we can expand. And one of our ideas is to try and expand the show to not only YouTube, to what you guys get right now. We're also wanting to expand it to Facebook Live. There are ways that we can do this, but it comes at a price. With that, eventually I'm going to ask for some help. So stay tuned with that. Also, stay tuned because I'm going to I'll put together something about ideas on what we can do for the next Profiles in History, whether we take a look at the presidents and their wives, or whether we take a look at generals throughout history. I don't know. We'll put together some ideas and we'll let everybody vote on it. Refill, I will not repeat your last two messages in the chat. She will DP me. Yes, she will DP me. You can read. Here's what he says. Okay, I'm not reading it. I'm gonna let him be the one that gets in trouble for it. Okay, listen. That beeping sound that you saw, that you heard earlier, says that that's all the time we have for this week, and God willing, the Stafford Voice will be back next week. You can follow me on Twitter or Gab at Stafford Voice, or you can look me up on any other social media of your choosing. All you got to do is just search for the Stafford Voice. Email your questions, comments, or concerns to thestaffordvoice@gmail.com. Again, that's thestaffordvoice@gmail.com. Thank you so much for your time, and until next week, thanks and God bless.